All right, today we're going to tackle one of the biggest, most foundational attributes of God, His holiness. And to really get our heads around it, we're not starting with the dry definition. Nope, we're jumping straight into one of the most jaw-dropping encounters in the entire Bible.
So picture this. The prophet Isaiah is in the temple, and then bam, he gets this vision. And this isn't some fuzzy, dreamlike feeling. This is real. It hits him like a freight train. He sees the Lord himself sitting on a throne, high and lifted up. Just try to imagine that for a second. The king of the entire cosmos right there in front of you.
And the first thing that happens? Creation itself reacts. And it's not a subtle reaction. It's violent. The very foundations of this massive stone building begin to shake and tremble just from the sheer presence of God. We're not talking about a gentle vibration. This is a full-on cosmic earthquake. And as if the whole place shaking wasn't enough, a thick, heavy smoke starts to fill the sanctuary. Now, this isn't campfire smoke. This is the kind of smoke that comes from an intensely burning fire. It's a visible sign of a power so overwhelming you can't even get close to it.
Let's be really, really clear about what's happening here. This was not a warm, fuzzy moment. It wasn't a time to start singing a sweet song. What Isaiah saw was raw, untamed, absolutely terrifying glory. It was awe-inspiring in the most literal sense of the word. It inspired both awe and terror.
So this terrifying vision, it provokes this immediate gut-level human reaction. And that reaction tells us something absolutely crucial about what it means to be in the presence of a holy God. Just look at what Isaiah says. He doesn't go, wow, this is amazing, I'm so special. He doesn't pat himself on the back. He just completely falls apart. His very first words are basically, it's over for me. I am ruined. Why? Because in the blinding light of God's perfection, his own imperfection was suddenly painfully obvious. So, what was it that caused this? What is this holiness that made a prophet of God feel totally ruined? We tend to think of it as just being really, really good. But biblically, it's so much bigger than that. This is so cool. The actual root word for holy has this idea of being cut or separate. It means to be totally distinct, completely set apart in a category all on your own. It's not about being at the top of the food chain, it's about being in a different reality altogether. And this slide lays it out perfectly. Over in column all, you have the way a lot of us think about God. He's just the best, most powerful being in a long line of other beings, a better, stronger version of us. But the biblical idea of holiness, that's column B. He is altogether other. He's not just part of the created universe, he's the one who created it. He's transcendent, uncreated. He has zero rivals. So, here's the key takeaway. Yes, God's holiness absolutely means he is morally perfect, without a hint of evil. But it's more than that. It's a transcendent purity, a perfection that exists on a completely different plane of existence than ours. And right there, that reality creates a massive problem for every single one of us. If God is that separate, that pure, well, that leads to a crisis. You can't avoid the question. If he's that different, that transcendent, that utterly, blindingly pure, how can we, who are not that, ever hope to approach him? How can a flawed, finite person ever stand in the presence of an infinite, holy creator? Isaiah's cry gives us the honest answer. His gut reaction was exactly right. He didn't say, well, I'll clean myself up and try again. He said, I'm ruined. It shows us that God's holiness is like a consuming fire. It exposes anything that isn't holy, and that unholiness simply can't survive in its presence. So is that it? Is that the end of the story? A holy God on one side and ruined humanity on the other, with this giant, uncrossable chasm in between? No. And the incredible thing is, the solution is right there in the vision itself. There is a way across, but it's not a bridge that we can build. This moment is the turning point. One of the angelic beings flies to the altar, which is always the place of sacrifice. It takes a burning coal from that altar, touches it to Isaiah's unclean lips, and then declares, your iniquity is taken away and your sin is forgiven. You see, God's holiness didn't lower its standard. For Isaiah to be made clean, a sacrifice and atonement had to be made. Now, this ancient vision has huge implications for us right now. So let's talk first to those of you who are believers. If you've been forgiven, if you've been brought near to this holy God, what's the proper response? The response is to reflect the character of the one who saved us. God's holiness is supposed to produce holiness in his people. We're called to be distinct, to be cut off and separate from the patterns of the world around us. And this is an active thing. It means we actively turn from evil, we pursue what's right, and we live lives that look different. God himself says it plainly, "Be holy, for I am holy." But that call to be holy comes after we've been made right with God. So what if you're not there yet? What if you're a seeker, maybe just curious, or you don't believe at all? Well, the challenge is the exact same one Isaiah faced. How can any of us stand before a God who is perfect when we know we're not? We can't just casually stroll up to him. The gap is just too wide. The Bible's answer to this impossible problem is just breathtaking. The holy God we could never climb up to came down to us. This verse from Hebrews says that Jesus is the radiance of his glory and the exact representation of his nature. In other words, if you want to see what this transcendent, holy God is actually like, you look at Jesus. And here it is. This is the absolute game changer. Jesus isn't just the revelation of this holy God. He is also the atonement that the altar in Isaiah's vision pointed to. At the cross, he became the sacrifice that makes forgiveness possible. So for those who trust in him, the holiness of God is no longer a consuming fire that ruins us. It becomes a refining fire that cleanses us. Okay, getting a handle on God's holiness is foundational. It tells us who God is at his very core, separate, transcendent, perfectly pure. But grasping this immediately brings up the next big question. I mean, think about it. If God is truly morally perfect, what does that mean for how he runs the universe? Can a holy God just look the other way at injustice and evil? Does his own perfection demand that he treat right and wrong differently? To put it bluntly, is he actually fair? Thousands of years ago, a man named Abraham asked that very question. And it's still one of the most profound questions anyone can ask about God. It cuts right to the heart of his character and how he interacts with his creation. And that's exactly where we're going next in this series. If holiness tells us who God is, then righteousness tells us how a holy God acts. So join us next time as we dive into the righteousness of God.